Well, I'll start with the namesake right there and go with Rate themselves. I feel like this team has shown me a lot of potential, but I feel like that's a bit of a cursed word a lot of the times in just pro League of Legends in any form. It's like, oh, I've seen the peaks. I know what this team could do. Arcane Teddy being a monster on the Fiora, but that doesn't mean they're hitting the consistent highs, and it's something that you really do need to be doing in an elongated split, especially when, if you lose this game to AaB, I believe that means it will have 5 teams all on the same score of 3 and 5, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a very important match for Rate to try and get themselves ahead of the pack that AaB are looking to close.
And the band's just coming through. As you can see, we're already in Champ Select. We've got Twisted Fate, Gwen, Zilean, and Zeri taken off the table. So a couple of, well, I say a couple. Zilean is a bit of a strange band, but not unheard of. And there's the Jinx taken away finally.
I find that Zilean one particularly unique because normally it has 2 significant pairings, the Hecarim and the Gwen. The Gwen was already banned when they got to it, so that's Rate being really afraid, or at least concerned, about this Zilean paired with other things. Obviously, it is a support into the bot lane, so you can flex that around. Do have the Thresh picked up with the Jinx gone. Question is, will Rate want to take away the Aphelios as the most natural pairing? Obviously, there's still the Jhin available, so a lot of options open for AaB, a very powerful first rotation pick.
And it looks like they're going to go for their support open doors. With the Lulu being locked in, again, could flex around the map a little bit, so going to be holding off on our confirmation of that. But as you mentioned, the Jhin available, the Aphelios is there. Caitlyn is also on the table if they wanted to go in that direction. But jungle, also, Lee Sin has made his way through bans, which is something worth keeping an eye on.
And I think my favorite form of Rate that I've seen is when they've put all of their power into the side lanes and then just had the mid jungle that act as role players. But with that Olaf picked up right there, it does mean that if you do lock in the Aphelios for AaB, you are scaring down a very scary barbarian that makes your life a nuisance because he could just run past the Thresh, he cannot peel for you. So it means that there is always going to be an angle for Born this way to be able to upset the bottom lane. We do get that hover on the Jarvan, natural enemy of the Olaf in the wild, being able to put him in the Cataclysm box and then scoot away, pretty much negates everything I just said.
I was going to say the Trundle was the other option of putting up that pillar and just preventing the Olaf from playing League of Legends. There's the Aphelios coming on through, so they've gone for they've seen the problem with the Olaf, they've chosen the solution first, and have then dropped in the Aphelios that they want to put alongside that Thresh. So a pretty strong opening for AaB, in all honesty. Whether Rate want to take their marksman to prevent that one being pinched out, where both teams have yet to pick any solo laners unless the Lulu is going to make their faces known in that top or mid lane. But the Jhin being hovered, this one actually locks in. That makes a lot of sense as well.
I don't really like it on its own. I think that Jhin Lulu as a bot lane isn't exactly the most synergetic. Obviously, Lulu loves things like the Cog more historically, and even the Olaf, just people that they can continue to enhance throughout a fight. The best benefit you get with Jhin is that you can speed them up and they become very elusive. You're against the Jarvan. So, again, ignore everything I just said because he presses R and negates all of that. So, they've just given an even better angle for this Jarvan, unless, and it's a big unless, we get that Lulu heading into the mid lane to support this Olaf. You do have the R5 pick for Rate, so I expect that to be something that is held over AaB's head for the rest of this draft. As we do actually get that Fiora banned away from Arcane Teddy, who has been looking like a killer on it in their previous matches.
Would I be shocked to see Camille taken off the table as well? Blessed Rate, thank you very much. Vigar not going to be seen in this one in the set. Also removed. And the question here is this Lulu picked up for the Jhin, or is this Lulu going to be picked for the team fight and someone else? There's the Camille banned away as well. So now Rate, likely to see a top laner you've got to imagine being locked in. Actually going to be the mid lane and Victor instantly put in. Of course, Ryze, Corki, Syndra all available in response.
Oh no.
And we'll also see what the solo lane's going to be.
No, please don't be Teddy top lane Lulu with Smite. Oh, that would hurt my soul. That would burn me a little bit. I'm a big fan of the Smite top lane, but putting Teddy on it with Lulu, that would be painful. Because
did you see the interview with Alfari where he called playing Smite top immoral?
Immoral. Oh, okay, we do get that Vel'Koz that has snuck through. Actually, that's something that is usually banned away from Blueburn in the mid lane. Pretty much in most of their games since they did manage to get their hands on it once or twice. As no, I did not see that interview, but I understand the logic for such a lane dominant top laner to call it immoral.
It was just, he was just like, it's just not fun. I'm not going to be playing it. I want it gone. But the Mundo is going to be in the top side for Gunkers this time around. Something that I believe we've seen him on before, and it looked all right. So we'll have to see if he can get a run back. And now, Rate have to answer a few of our burning questions, what they're going to be locking in. It could be a top laner to go up against this Mundo, or it could be a support to go alongside Jhin. Of course, stuff like the Nautilus, which is traditionally quite good with Jhin, is available. Into Fresh, that's a little bit of a harder sell. Whether Arcane Teddy's going to go onto the Yone, which is something that we've seen a little bit in the past. Okay. You look shocked.
I'm not going to say I'm befuddled, because I like the concept. It has a really long range engage, and you're against two immobile carries. Yes, they have a Thresh, but with the speed at which Yone can actually get the engage, it's faster than the Lantern hits the floor if they have that 3-stacked Q plus the ultimate. So there is a lot of windows for Teddy to solo carry this game. And my biggest thing is, I think they have to, because you're against a brick wall Mundo and you're the only DPS. If we do see Bobus paying a lot of attention up to the top lane here on the Jarvan and really putting this Yone behind, I find it difficult to believe that the Victor, Jhin, basically the four people that can't get out of the Cataclysm, can actually do anything against this Wombo combo in the mid jungle for AaB.
I'm fascinated to see what these junglers do in the early game, because when you've got a Jarvan and an Olaf, they want to be getting onto the map early, they want to be getting stuff done. You can't really, with both of these champions, you can't really just sit and power farm. That's not really an option for you, because later on, the Olaf gets made redundant by the Jarvan, and if the Jarvan's playing damage, the Jarvan gets made redundant by literally any CC, which Rate have in abundance. So for me, it's a case of we need to see Zariox and Born This Way working early. And for these two teams who have arguably not had the strongest early games in the league, otherwise they would be sitting a little bit higher in the standings, especially Born This Way, I need to see what he's going to do, because there's so much potential and promise, but we need to see that realized. Yeah, exactly.
Across the board, there's a good amount of setup in the bot side of the map, and even for the top lane, Teddy has something. They can remove that shield, but in reality, Olaf actually has a good time ganking the Mundo, because you tag them with slows, and his passive shield does not break off of that, so you can actually control them, combined with the fact that once they hit level 6, Yone has 2 individual bits of CC, so you can actually do something. I like what Rate have going if Teddy gets off the ground, and in both the games so far today, I've supported a draft, and that team has proceeded to not do anything proactive and lose the game. So, again, I feel like I'm cursing whichever team I try and support here, but I feel like Rate, I'm going to say they are favored if Teddy gets ahead. If they do not, though, this comp falls apart and gets demolished.
Well, we're going to be jumping into game to see if they can do just that, or if Rate are going to fall to the Melvin curse. These are the questions. AaB on the blue side, Rate on the red. Both of these teams looking for wins. Of course, Rate have been evened up in scoreline by Domino and Verdant, who both picked up wins earlier today. If AaB can win this one, they'll be tying a lot of things up in that lower playoff middle of the table pack that we see forming. Of course, the 4 teams at the top of the table will be going up against each other later in the day. So this is kind of the last of the lower end. And both of these teams need a win here.
Most definitely. And I would say that AaB really did start off the shenanigans in the standings. For the first 2 to 3 weeks or so, it looked pretty expected. Natives and Lucent were looking like the top dogs. Munster were closely trailing up behind them, and then the rest of the teams were falling down in a pretty standard order. But once AaB beat the undefeated Natives off of a pretty monstrous early game into just beating them after there was a greedy invade from Natives, and then winning off of that, I feel like the entire league has been a bit up in the air, with the exception of Munster, who we'll talk a lot more about later. But the main point of that little rant is that, funnily enough, both of these teams get their leads off of the early game, and we really do need to keep that focal point on the junglers for it.
Well, that's what we were saying, right? The two teams rely on early game, will be relying on early game this game, but when you're 2-5 and 3-4 and you're relying on that as your only win condition or your main win condition, it hasn't happened enough necessarily so far. But with both of these teams suffering from the same issues, you've got to expect an explosive early game, because if that's how you both want to play, then you're both going to be making mistakes and making moves around the rift. And keep your eyes on the two junglers, as you mentioned, to do just that. As Jarvan going straight over his wolves to go to that second buff, we could see early action from him.
Solid 3-camp clear. It's a very standard thing for Jarvan when they want to get early ganks down, but you'll see in the river, actually, for the bottom lane and for mid, that ward is just timed out, but in the bottom lane they have placed down a very defensive ward. It's good for stopping Jarvan, but the thing is you do have Thresh, so as soon as they tag over and pick up that lantern, I don't know if they've actually took it already, but they'll be able to get the Jarvan around here and look for a gank already.
Jarvan's just moving into the river, will be spotted out. The flay has gone down. Lovan needs to be careful. Zariox looking for the flag and drag, flashes forward, lands onto Pete, and the damage is there, but the kill is not. The root actually means Tun has to get healed away. AaB burning a lot of resources and don't actually pick up the kill.
It's going to be all 3 of the flashes, and, actually 2 flashes and a heal traded for all 4 of the summoners of the Raid bottom lane. And the thing is, though, Jarvan now wants to be coming back down here, but this has given Born This Way time to clear the jungle, everything bar their Gromp. They're going to pick up this Scuttle Crab now, potentially look for an invade onto the Raptors. You know for a damned fact that that Jarvan did a 3-camp because of their CS. So I love this from Born This Way. They're actually just going to lurk in the jungle and wait to pick off their nuisance of the Jarvan, who, by the way, Solaf actually has the Flash as opposed to the Ghost, so they can still escape the Cataclysms later.
I think that makes a lot of sense because you are going to need to get out of those to be impactful in team fights, and Born This Way clearly respects that. But it should be worth noting that even though we said that both these junglers need to be doing work early, it doesn't necessarily all have to be ganks. Something like Olaf going in, taking down that Scuttle, and then moving in and stealing camps is still going to be very, very useful to his team because it is going to keep Zariox from being in the game for too much longer. And Arcane Teddy needs to be a little bit careful. He's between a rock and a hard place, but it's just going to fight his way through the rock, getting a lot of damage onto the rock. Looking towards Gunkus, flashing away, diving forward, killing him for first blood. Caught up by Zariox now. I don't think Yone wins this fight, especially with red buff running on the Jarvan. He'll be able to get the revenge kill. But Arcane Teddy turns on the style and picks up a kill.
Oh, really nicely done by Teddy, but it was Gunkus not burning the flash at the end there because Teddy actually got their way into the bush and then came out with a knock-up. I suppose it was too quick for them to react to and not wanting to do a preemptive flash, hoping that they could have that summoner advantage. They will pay for it in a big way because now, if we do see Born This Way stroll their way up onto the top lane, well, it's still going to continue to backfire for AaB. Even scorelines so far, and is going to be both on the top side.
Well, let's have a look at this one, how Arcane Teddy manages this, because he's caught in a bad position, but he manages to turn it around.
So normally what you'd do here is you'd start the E earlier to get the DPS and then keep it going the whole time, but because he reactivates it so quickly and gets the instant flash into the bush, I think that was just what Gunkus wasn't ready for at that point. They were thinking, oh, he's going to jump back and then flash third Q away. The aggressive move from Teddy will be rewarded.
Does lose with lives, of course, at the end of it, which gives the kill over to Zariox on the Jarvan. No knock-up this time around as Yone just standing toe-to-toe with the Mundo, but not looking so healthy as he runs on down. Of course, at level 6, Mundo is going to get so much sustain and ability to survive that he needs to be careful, and the Yone with the lethal tempo isn't going to have so much sustain as Tun not going to be tagged up this time.
I am actually potentially waiting for Gunkus to maybe look for a dive. If they get another good cleaver onto Teddy after this one, then I think they're low enough that he could just walk under tower, and provided that Teddy doesn't have the third Q available, he could just smack him to death with the passive.
Well, he's got the ultimate available, Teddy as well, so could look to use that tool, and AaB just keeping faces visible in the bot side. The Dragon has been reset, Born This Way unable to grab it before members from the opposition showed up to scare him away, if not do any real damage, as Arcane Teddy is just trying to remain safe under tower, doesn't want to get hit by cleavers, doesn't want to get into that dive range, but could look to try and get something going himself. Doesn't that, well, lands the knockup, but it's going to be caught up with the passive and now has to dive on through. But Yone giving a lot of respect, and I think it's warranted, as Ray will start up the Dragon once again.
And even though that passive is removed, that is the main thing that really allows the Mundo to dive, because they could just negate any of the Yone initial CC and then chase them down after that as it continues. Will be the Dragon going in Rate's favor. Their weak side top lane currently of the Yone is doing alright for themselves.
Gunkus pops that ultimate for a bit of sustain, thinking Arcane Teddy might have gone in a little bit more aggressively than he actually did. Ultimate still available for the Yone. This dive could well be on, though. Is Zariox moving on through? Will they have time before the recall? Nope, they won't. He's going to be able to dive away. And Zariox just going to grab some Krugs instead of the dive.
I think they're going to be more than happy with that. The only thing that I'm a little scared about is the fact that Teddy is coming back with the ultimate, and it will be around the same time that Born This Way will be up here. Yeah, they'll get a plate in the top lane, but it's not a massive impact. Blueben doing alright in this mid lane. They are going down in CS for the moment. In the range matchup, you'd normally expect the Vel'Koz to be able to take this one, but not had a recent base, not got towards that lost chapter. Once they have that and they can pretty much just sit in lane with infinite mana, it becomes really difficult for Topi to actually play. They need to be actively aggressing onto the Vel'Koz and being able to threaten the Chaos Storm to cancel out that Lifeform Disintegration Ray, because otherwise the Vel'Koz could just keep you at arms, or I suppose tentacles length, and really just kill you with no counterplay.
And this is going to be a problem moving forward, because if the Vel'Koz can just destroy 1, 2, 3 members, that ultimate is going to be burning through multiple targets in teamfights. You've got to imagine Lesrata positioning very well, and there's no other reason why they'd all be in the same place, then it's just going to be a huge threat regardless of the state of the game, really. And yeah, Blueben not looking so hot in terms of farm. You can see the Victor has got a substantial lead. Raid actually going to be starting up this Rift Herald as well, so keeping our eyes on if there's any kind of skirmish here. But there's threats across this AaB lineup in terms of damage moving forward into later stages. But it's whether they're going to get to that point with Rate looking like the team that's more likely to be making these early moves.
I would say they definitely have the easier execution. That is one thing that you cannot deny from Rate. While the Aphelios has a struggle in the team fights against the entire enemy team, your Vel'Koz Jarvan combo plus a good Aphelios ultimate, I say good based on the type of gun, either of the ones they currently have now would thread in that kind of scenario for the setup or for the burst, that's pretty cookie cutter, and it's not too difficult to replicate over and over again. So all you need to do is, now that we're going to start moving into those phases where there'll be 3 to 4 person skirmishes every couple minutes, is just burn an important flash, like Topi's for example, and then continuously revisit them with the Jarvan, use that range advantage from the Vel'Koz, and get a free kill. It's something that we haven't been seeing teams do today, and it's something that we really do need to see both of these teams start to step it back up if they are to differentiate themselves from the other 3 and 5 teams.
And differentiating yourself against teams with similar scorelines is going to be the name of the game, regardless of this result, because AaB pick up this win, they're joint with Rate, and they're joint with a lot of other teams. But if they lose, they're joint with London United still, and we talked to Ice Gale a bit earlier on today after their loss to Verdant, and he was saying, look, we can see some of the issues, and we're going to be able to resolve them, so we will come back stronger in the coming weeks, which is always a promising statement. And in the top side, Arcane Teddy is going for a little bit of a trade, but it's Mundo, so he's not going to mind all that much. Has already got himself the Barmy Cinder, but the ultimate coming on through. It looks like it's going to be an all-in. Gunkus gets the healing, gets the ultimate, and should be able to move back a little bit. Goes down in the end, though. Arcane Teddy with just a tad too much damage.
Similar to Icy Gale, another one of those lively top laners that really did cement themselves, as these were the top 2 for all intents and purposes, and we're seeing Teddy come back into form, which is really what everybody loves to see. This player is so fun to watch when they're playing on form, and I would say this kind of taking a proactive carry in the top lane and using that confidence to really just make the mental advantage is exactly what we love from him.
And he's going to be given a lot of gold. In fact, the whole tower is going to be secured. Arcane Teddy securing plate after plate after plate. We can actually just see the gold very quickly. Yeah, look at that. 1,400 in the lead at the 11-minute mark. Yone definitely online.
Oh, and this Rift Herald actually gets a second charge. That's going to be really big when it comes to side laning, because that is a 600 gold Pinata sat there just waiting to be claimed now by presumably the Yone, as your only person who really wants to be in a side lane. Topi can do it on the Victor.
Well, he can't at the moment. He's dead.
Well, no, yeah, that's it. We finally got to see it happen.
Well, Zariox could be in a little bit of trouble. The Ragnarok has been popped. He's going to be able to get over the wall. Born This Way doesn't have Flash to do the same. And again, AaB just turn on a little bit of style in the mid side. But the gold is just in Rate's favor right now. And the entire gold lead almost, it seems, is just in the pocket of Arcane Teddy.
We had a bit of a whiff from Born This Way. They are able to start up this dragon now, and considering that we just watched the two most important ultimates for AaB get burnt off that Jarvan and Vel'Koz ultimate, this is a free objective now. That is the one. Oh my goodness, I saw that.
It almost
Aphelios
wasn't. It
Ah,
almost wasn't.
that was very, very close. Too close for me, actually. That's not what I signed up for today. I don't need to be seeing these kind of steals, actually. So we'll get the Ocean Rift enveloping the map.
Ocean Rift is going to be the option. We're going to see a replay of this kill mid, hopefully in its entirety, just to see exactly what happens. But, you know, we saw the end of it. Yeah.
It's a no-flash victor. This is what we wanted to see, and they did it, which is great. Because that's one of the ways that you could get yourselves actually building up a gold lead when you have such a scary force like Teddy on this Yone. You really do need to be making plays elsewhere, and there was a reason that we talked so much about the Jarvan, because despite it being such an early pickup for AaB, there's 4 immobile people for you to pick on rate. There's 4 people that, if they don't have flash, should die to Vel'Koz plus Jarvan ult.
Should.
They have a Lulu.
The operative word. And of course, those 4 people are unlikely to be all in the same place at the same time. You would hope, in terms of a team fight layout, whether that will come as pass. I mean, if that happens for AaB, then they're going to be right back in this one, and they're not that far out of the pace at all. We've got 30 seconds on plates as Arcinteddy finds Zariox over the Gromp, but he's going to flash away. Arcinteddy diving on through, getting some damage, but will be forced to back out.
Woof.
Zariox lives to fight another day.
Yone is a fun champion. I hate Yone. I hate him so much. What are your opinions on this? Because I ban it every game I get the option to.
I'm fine with him, honestly. Again, I play tanks, as we're going to see the ultimate coming on through. Doesn't land on Zariox, though. Calling the Cataclysm. Yone's down. Born This Way has nothing to say about the situation, and AaB survive another very audacious attempt on their lives.
He's getting a bit ahead of the build path there on Teddy. They went straight to the Overzeal right there in the top lane. Not exactly what you want to be going for, especially before picking up the shield bow. I think, you know, when you're feeling yourself and you're getting really into the game, sometimes you can make plays like that backfire. Let's hope that was an isolated incident for Teddy, because otherwise this game can slip away from rate. You are completely right. There is not that big of a gap. I don't think bounties are going to be coming online anytime soon, at least.
Ooh, Rippery. Should be okay. Lulu a little bit slow off the mark and wouldn't have been able to provide too much with the flourish already having been popped. As Aphelios has been left to his own devices in the bot side and has picked up a decent chunk of minions over low fire on the Jhin. About 20 to the good, which is always great to see for an Aphelios, because later in the game when we start seeing him called upon in these late game situations, if the Vel'Koz, if Bluebird isn't able to catch someone out, if the Jarvan ultimate isn't quite there, it's going to be on Rippery, it's going to be on this Jhin to get that sustained DPS and make these team fights work later on.
And Jhin, Victor, not exactly what you think of when you go for, like, standard sustained damage. Victor, quite good if they're allowed to, but that's the main thing. I think for a lot of how these team fights will play out, Victor will either get to 1v9 or
Born This Way, Ragnarok in, he's looking to try and get the steal away, getting the damage down, will be able to secure the Rift Herald as the jump through from Arcinteddy. He's doing a lot of work, gets the first kill of the fight as Vel'Koz in the backline, River in the backline. There's the laser burning through Rate, but it doesn't get anyone to death. They do get them low, and now they're caught up in the pit. Who has flashes, who has ways out? The damage is coming through. 1 escapes, Pete needs to be careful, 2 escapes, but it's not going to be enough for the Lulu. Rift Herald taken down. Zariox grabs it in pocket. But
they're going to be able to walk it. They got it. Like you say, they've got the Herald and they've got mid priority. The Jhin Victor are here, but I like this. This is just chucking it down straight away. You have the numbers advantage. Even though your Vel'Koz is out of mana, they only need to tag with a slow. Sets up for the Jarvan, and that's it. We'll be able to look for the second charge, potentially. We'll have to see if Lowfire can stop this one.
Here's the fourth shot, which should be able to be used. Actually, gets the second charge on. A little bit of miscalculation there from the Jhin. And now you talked about Pinata in the top side. There's a Pinata mid for AaB.
It's really nice. Just the pressure going over to this team. Let's take a look at how this actually got started, because it was a very... I'm just going to say it was Born This Way running in, because there was nothing else that really kicks off the fight. They try and get in here to flip the Herald. Great knock-up off of the Lulu ult. But it is the Jarvan Smite that wins the day. Tum flashing out to safety. They get chased down by Teddy, But watch this, it's the ultimate only onto them, and it's just wasting Teddy's time. They're only hitting onto the tanky top side, and that EQ from Xeriox saves the day, because otherwise Teddy's getting Triumph, and they're coming back for the backline. Because of this, though, you get the flashes out of Jarvan. Sorry, you get the flashes out of the Jhin and the Victor for this fight. Cataclysm is up in a second. This should be a winning fight for AaB once again.
Got to imagine, Rate holding the entrance to the Dragon Pit and looking like they don't want to give this one up. They want to set themselves up for Soul Point, but the engage coming from Xerax won't be able to find the flag and drag, so backs away. The Ragnarok burnt by Born this way. He goes big as well with the Lulu ultimate. Arcane Teddy can't get an assassination onto Vel'Koz, but he's still in the Dragon Pit. Gunkus is healing through. As the gun has been called. Lost now is going into Ton, but he was full health on the outset as we see Xerax moving away, jumping back in. The fourth shot does a lot of work to him, and he's the jungler, remember, Arcane Teddy on the side, but jumps back into the Dragon Pit. It's gone down to half health. Rate really wants to secure this objective. Can AaB contest? They've got the tower up from Aphelios. 2,000 health on this Dragon. Xerax going through, but gets killed! Oh. Shut down, and the Dragon goes the way of Rate too. Born this way. Really masterclass there on how to control an objective as Rate take the fight.
Great recovery from what had been a rough game for them up until this point. Is going to put the Soul Point down for a team that can make so much use out of it. With the itemization shifting away from health, if you can actually get through longer fights, you will get a massive amount of value, particularly from things like the Death Stance. I imagine that's what Born this way is making their way towards. And Lulu, with the ultimate, actually compensates for that. Adding a bit more max health onto you will make a significant difference when you're healing off of that Ocean Soul. Provided they get there. Obviously, we're 5 minutes away before we get to see anything to do with that. For the moment, though, gonna get a bit of peace on the Rift before Baron's up.
And I think notably as well, you said AaB were meant to win that fight. But it never really got going for them. They couldn't find the engagement from Xerax. He was burned too low. Had to go for the steal, which obviously didn't come out because Born this way read it and knew exactly what to do in that situation. And just like that, we were talking about how AaB were meant to be the ones in the driving seat for at least the next few minutes. But the gold lead has slipped away from them. Yeah, it wasn't massive, and yes, it's still not massive in the other direction. But it is a swing, and with Rate having that condition to play towards Baron up on the map in 30 seconds as well as another contentious area. Something that could be worth noting now is that last game and the game before we were talking about trading Dragon for Baron, the Baron being much better so you kind of sack off the Dragon. In this game, could we see Rate just focus on that Dragon and say, yeah, you get Baron, that's a big deal, but we're going to be playing with Ocean Soul?
I'm very much with you there, because the thing is, sieging into the Rate comp is difficult, because Victor is very good when it comes to looking at the different mages for keeping the wave away from tower. Not necessarily killing it, but they buy a lot of time with those gravity wells, the Jhin traps. They can waste so much Baron duration, and if you walk up to hit tower, first of all, who's doing it? Aphelios. That's not massive range. Secondly, if you're trying to siege in a traditional manner, the Yone could jump over a wall. There's so many different angles with raptor camps, wolves, things like this, that allow them to set up the third queue and then go in. The Jhin curtain call. It's really difficult to siege into Rate's comp because you don't actually have anybody that can safely hit tower, even though you've got the Thresh Aphelios. It sounds absurd, but there's that much threat coming out from the Rate squad.
And we've been talking about threat from AaB primarily this game, talking about how they've got all of these tools that can do so much damage and they can delete multiple members with single abilities. But Rate have the potential to do exactly the same. Yeah, it's not necessarily the same as just pop ultimate, boom. But the Jhin fourth shot could be taking members very, very low, especially when you look at Ribery, who's not going to be tanky. Blueburn is definitely not going to be very tanky. I'm looking at Xeriox's build, and he's getting a couple of items that are going to allow him to sustain through a little bit. But I am a little bit concerned. I mean, both of these teams lose a team fight, and it's disastrous, because you lose team fights in a big way with these two compositions.
Exactly, and that is all off of the back of how well you can actually continue to chase down when you have things like the Yone, who, with that lethal tempo, getting buffed not too long ago for the melees in the late game. They removed a lot of the early skirmishing power, so you don't just get to win every level 1 you walk into lane for. But as the game goes on, it is better for Yone than it was before. So this is something that we need to keep an eye on. If Teddy is left in a side lane against Gunkus and hits that crucial sustain point, where they can survive hitting the Mundo and stack that up, there's really nothing for him to do. They'll be getting off multiple knockups in the space of 1E. The Soul Unbound will be massive for this side lane matchup, but we need to keep our eye every now and again just glancing over to see how the trades are going. If Teddy is at that point now where they could just shrug Gunkus off as a slightly bigger minion.
I mean, slightly bigger. I would say significantly bigger than a minion.
Well, I mean, yes, size-wise, but it doesn't mean that the amount of time to kill for Teddy will be too far different from there, as we do actually have Teleport coming out right here from Blueben with the Ocean Soul Point up in 30 seconds. This is a rough situation. If Gunkus does the preemptive TP to be there with the team, Teddy will get that second-tier tower, and then the map becomes even more open than it already is. But it looks like he's actually backing off so he could get there first himself and look for a pick onto either this Vel'Koz or the Aphelios.
The AaB question, do they want to give up the situation? They've got Gunkus coming through. Actually, he's going to be the one there first, but Yone comes out fresh from Fountain. As the Dragon landing on the Rift in 1 second will be here. And now, Rate going through. Born This Way starts up with the ultimate, wanting to burn through Mundo, wanting to burn through Gunkus. AaB pick up the first kill of the fight onto Born This Way. And Rate need to be careful. They're in shambles. It's 4v4 as Ribery also dies off screen.
That is going to be the Jarvan still available, but no Vel'Koz are to follow up now. So you can put him in a cage, but then there's not much you can do to him after that. So I think that Rate are going to slowly take control of the objective. But like you say, with Born This Way dead, they don't really want to be taking it. It's not safe.
Oh, also, we're coming from Arcane Teddy. The damage is massive as Tun is brought into the back of the fight. Cataclysm's decent, though. As AaB don't actually lose any members and pick up the kill onto Arcane Teddy. It looked like such a keen play, and of course, Tun is on the wrong side of the map here, so could go down in the response kill. He's just wasting some time seeing if he can get away. Will be able to get the Lantern out. Actually, the Death Sentence, I should say, takes the tower shot, though, and Lofire will be given the credit as Born This Way respawns onto the Rift. No Yone this time around, no Fresh either. Are they going to start this up? Do they have time to do it?
I mean, it's going to be a contest at the end of the day, but you do have Smite plus Jhin 4th shot. And you can see Lofire's actually holding it. This should be free. There's always the option for a steal. Jarvan is over the back of the pit and they're in.
Oh, he's going to go forward. He does. He steals it away. Raider denied the soul, and now the fight kicks off, and Ernest Born This Way goes down for his sins, and Lofire could be in trouble. Gets away. Peep also does the same, using that wild growth on himself. As the double kill goes over to Gunkus. Lofire, the second victim. Take a bow, Zariox. You stole the dragon. You kept your team in the race for another 5 minutes.
Very cleanly done, and they're going to be able to walk over to this Baron to get Vision down. This will not be a Baron take by any means. You lack your DPS. It is Yone and Aphelios are the two key players. If either of them are alive, Baron takes are still possible. If either of them are dead, you really are wasting your time going for it. Rate have a slightly better time, just because they have a secondary AD source, which is, you know, their actual ADC, but it's still not going to be that quick. Jhin is not the best for that. And I'd be really curious to see how that ended up going down, because they had it all prepped. They had the 4th shot plus Smite, but Zariox, beautifully done, finding the way in and keeping their team alive, I will say. Because if you go down in Soul to the Yone plus the Olaf, these fights go really different. Let's take a look at how it actually kicked off. Because it was both top laners coming in early, posturing around the mid lane. AaB had that initial prio, but it was Born This Way, pulling the trigger, with Lofire trying to pop Gunkus initially, and on the side, Teddy was actually just solo boloing the ADC out. Now, with the retreat coming off, it turns into a pretty slow fight at this point, with just a bit of poke coming down from the Vel'Koz, longest range champion in the game for these mini skirmishes. And it's realistically just going to be Teddy starting off the proactive play on this rooted target. It looks so good, but a lot of damage coming down, and the knock-up actually from Blueben, that's what held them still, meaning they couldn't pop to safety. Yes, they chase in, kill the Thresh, and let's fast forward, thank you, dear producer, as it comes down to this Smite fight right here. The jump over the wall, and the 4th shot comes out. Oh no, the Smite from Born This Way actually takes it down to 100. Oh, that was tragic for Rate, as they do end up losing off of this play right here. Not the game, but they're in a much worse spot than they were coming into it.
It's been a case of AaB have looked like they might be in a position to take fights more and more as time's gone on. But we've still been saying, look, Rate have got the dragon control. This will turn the position of these skirmishes and these 5v5s on its head because Ocean Soul is so good. Now it's been delayed another 5 minutes. That's another 5 minutes. Well, it's a 2.5 minutes now after we came out of that replay, where AaB have a run of the Rift again. And they need to grab themselves any advantage they can find, really. Because they're going to be in another position. I don't know how Zarek is feeling about a second steal. I don't know if Rate gives them the opening.
But it's definitely not something you want to rely on.
No, but I would say that AaB, for a team, when we so often say that teams don't like attacking into objectives, because a lot of competitions are built around being good when you're first to the call, AaB have some tools that makes contesting and fighting not the worst thing in the world.
Oh, absolutely. As soon as Blueben gets this level 16 on the Vel'Koz, a Baron take, if they're alive, is asking for death, because you do not have a Mundo to tank up the Baron the whole time. You have the Olaf, who's fine, yeah, but the biggest issue is you want them to be getting a bit low, so they build up that attack speed and start shredding the objective. And if Vel'Koz gets on top of you with your MR taken down, you can see in their build, they're rocking something in the region of about 45 Magic Pen right now. That's true damage to everybody that isn't the Olaf. And with that Baron MR shred, they'll be doing true damage to them as well. So it really is just no good window for Rate to play. They need to be getting to the objective first, but they do not have a good way of holding it.
I was going to say, I mean, if you want the Olaf to go low on the Baron, Blueben can help. I'm sure he would be more than happy to get the Olaf low.
Oh, yes, they would definitely be ready.
That you can't really do the Baron if you're dead, and Born This Way running like a freight train looking for targets, but it's going to be caught up in the Cataclysm. Arcane Teddy looking for assassination. Blueben just putting a load of damage into him, but somehow Born This Way is still alive, being given all the assistance, and Zariox is dead. You can't steal an objective if you're not alive for it, and Dragon will spawn up before the Jarvan does. AaB, however, with only 4 members, still looking to control the river. Teleport coming on through for Arcane Teddy, who's just been back to base. It'll be a 4v5 with health bars looking pretty similar. In fact, AaB might be a little bit less healthy across the board.
I think it's better for Rate to just flip for the Baron here, because it's a little dangerous to walk in. If you don't get the initial pick, this can go horribly wrong.
They're using all of their tools to try and grab it. The curtain call, third shot will land, but fourth isn't going to go on to anyone. But the Dragon is going to come down onto the Rift. 5 seconds on Zariox, of course. He's going to have to move on through. Rate is low. As you can see, low fire, lower than half health. Born This Way, lower than half health. Gunkus looking to move forward, gets burning low. But Arcane Teddy looking for the damage. It will be secured. Rate now have themselves the soul and looking to sustain themselves through this fight. Decide against taking it any further. It was close, but no cigar from AaB as Rate set themselves up for success.
Okay, but this is the natural counterplay. AaB need to be looking to take this. You know Teddy TP'd into the mid lane right there to get back to this objective on full HP. This should be yours to lose at this point. Olaf does have the flash up, but no smite. Jhin W is realistically the only thing we need to be scared of right now for AaB. Baron's down to 2k. Should be gone.
It's going to be taken away. Zarix will grab it. So AaB grab themselves the Baron buff, but the soul is still in the hands of Rate. They're looking to try and get a fight on the way out, but turning around. The damage there. Teddy grabs onto one, gets the kill, looking for a second target. Ribery will be the focus, and he's going to be able to secure that one as well off screen. The other Rate goes down. They're looking towards Zariox, catching him up, slowing him down. The Cataclysm holds them in place for a second longer. But Gunkus, the only one with the Baron buff, is trying to get away towards his towers. We'll get back to base, so the buff's on one at least.
I don't know if this is about Baron. I think they're going to look to end the game here. They have Teddy pushing down the mid lane. Respawn timers are realistically 20 seconds before anybody can actually do something. If they're not threatening an end, they're definitely going to be walking out of this with double inhib, to say the least.
They've got one. They're looking towards this second one. Of course, Gunkus does have the Baron, so we'll be able to make his minions a little bit more helpful in the clear. And I think Rate, respect the timers, respect the buff, will back away as AaB survive in the game for a few moments longer. But Ray have taken his game from 0 to 100, and they're looking like the team much more favored to walk away with the victory.
Especially when your frontliner is the only one left with the Baron buff. They are the most susceptible to ending up going down, with real exception being the Jarvan. Let's take a look at how this started, because it was a clean Baron take from AaB. They managed to get it down before anybody could contest. But then it was the escape, and watch, Teddy's ultimate is not up yet. It comes up about a second after he goes over the wall, but they get such a big window right here, completely cutting off the retreat, forcing the flash from the Aphelios, and then chasing them down. On the other side, Born This Way, I mean, it's an Olaf in ult versus a Vel'Koz. There's really not much you can do. There's no Jankos cosplay here. as it will be Rate winning the day here, taking down double inhib, funnel a lot of gold over to this Aphelios and the Vel'Koz, and most importantly, the Baron will be gone before the Elder Dragon spawns. So there should be Rate playing a slow map, maybe going to collect a couple extra towers on the bot side just because they're easy to take for the moment, and then looking for a secure on that Elder into the game.
Take Elder in this situation, you've got to imagine that something would have to go tragically wrong for Rate for them not to pick up the victory here, but they're sieging into these Baron minions still. Gunka's still buffing people up and trying to make it as easy as possible, but the inner tower will be forfeit. Rate cracking open everything outside the base. 2 inhibitors, as you mentioned, have also been secured. And what Rate decide to do next? Do they want to try and keep the pressure on in this bot side? Do they want to just sit off and wait a couple of minutes for this Elder Dragon? These are the questions, and I can't imagine they want to be sitting on their hands too much, because playing around Elder Dragon, as you said earlier in the day, even if you're super ahead, can still be a risk.
Definitely not a consistent win condition, but you can see bounties are online at this point, so if anything does go wrong for Rate, if it's not the game, it will be the turning of it back over to AaB, as double inhibs is usually a big issue, but you have champions that love to clear minion waves. Aphelios and the Vel'Koz very proficient at it. Mundo can soak up this poke damage that comes down. So in reality, AaB are pretty fine right here. They are going to keep collecting this gold, and as long as nobody steps too far up, this is going to be a 2-minute farm fest where AaB just try and grab whatever they can and put up the best fight possible for the Elder.
And they're getting that money funneled into them, the experience funneled into them, as you've already mentioned. So they're going to be in an okay position to contest. If they can get their 5v5 with health bars, well, the real worry is that Rate might not let them do that. The curtain has been called. The fight could be kicked off. Where's the engaged? They're actually looking just to take down the tower, and will be able to do so. The inhibitor won't be the focus just yet, but it's going to be unguarded by structures, as that Nexus tower on the top side also goes down. AaB needs to commit every member to defend the bottom. Something on the top side, and now the bottom lane inhib is going to start being peppered. It's gone down to below half health. Zarek comes in with a cataclysm, catches on a couple, but has to go golden immediately afterwards. That's the Vel'Koz ultimate burning on through, but it doesn't actually get the kill onto anyone, as Arcane Teddy bats away to be first kill of the fight, as Zariox finally falls. Rate's health bar's not looking super tidy, but AaB are the only person to lose a member.
And the teleports are up. This will be Teddy coming back with a vengeance. I imagine this is going to be the end. AaB need to force something right this second if they want even a chance. Maybe all turning on to Teddy might be a solution, but you'll lose that inhib.
Yeah, and members can't all turn onto him because there's stasis being blown, there's damage being thrown, and Rate looking towards this inhibitor. Arcane Teddy snaps back to the top side as all the inhibitors are gone. Both of the Nexus towers are gone. And Rate looking towards the Nexus itself will have the damage, will have the ability to survive through the defense, and it will be Rate picking up the win and setting themselves a little bit apart from the competition below.
Very scary stuff right there. Managing to secure themselves a position out of that 3 and 5 clump that could have occurred if AaB were to take this one. A hard-fought game, though, from both ends. Rate definitely not getting away with that one too easily. Teddy with a pretty good performance on the Yone, but a couple slip-ups in a fight or two, going a bit overzealous. Nicely done by Blueben on a couple of those interrupts, and most importantly, Zariox on that steal to keep the game competitive for so long. But in the end, Rate do secure it in, I'm going to say, nail-biting fashion.
Yeah, it was certainly a close matchup. I'm going to be fascinated to hear from both of the teams about how they thought it went and where they're going moving forward. We're going to jump to a short break. When we come back, we're going to do just that, chat to both teams, see what's going on. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.